You're listening to Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry Sanderson on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
West Guardians shut out the Tigers 5-0. Cleveland is tied with Philadelphia for baseball's best record at 65-42. The Braves knock off the NL Central leading Brewers 5-1.
Inside the Locker Room with former Crimson Tide basketball coach Wimp Sanderson and his son, former SEC and ACC assistant basketball coach Barry Sanderson. It's time to take you inside the locker room on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
And good morning and welcome into a Wednesday edition, a hump day edition of Inside the Locker Room, 205-342-9904 if you'd like to get in on the show with us this morning. The X accounts at Locker Room 109 at Barry Sanderson at Wimp Sanderson 1. And the email address for the show is wimpandbarry@yahoo.com. Download the Tide 100.9 app to your smartphone. A lot of times we'll take the press conferences, which they will have one today. I think practice starts at 9 this morning, but there'll be a press conference out there today. A lot of times we'll carry those live, so you can catch that on the app if you're not in the car or if you're out of town. So download that app to your smartphone. Yellowwood pressure-treated pine from Great Southern. Always remember, if it doesn't have the yellow tag on it, you don't want it. Going to build a 5-star backyard. There's only one choice, and that would be Yellowwood. Where do you find it? Go to yellowwood.com to find the dealer that is closest to you. Good morning, Dad. Good morning, Chase. How are you guys this morning?
I'm here. Several things. I think because we've got the Olympics going, we need to talk about it. There's not a whole lot to talk about this day and time, so I'll just mention a little bit more about that. The men's basketball will be against South Sudan today at 2 o'clock our time at USA Network. I think if USA is ready to play, and let me tell you something. South Sudan, they will be ready to play. How good they are, I have no idea, but they'll be ready to play. They'll be excited to play the United States.
The problem for South Sudan is on that, they just played an exhibition game like 2 weeks ago, and the Americans only beat them by 1. Yeah, so they're going to have the Americans' best shot today.
Maybe so. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. I think sometimes you still continue to think that you just played a bad game against a bad team. But we'll see. Maybe you're right. 3-on-3 teams lost in men's and women's basketball. Some talk about that. If you like women's volleyball, they'll play today at 4 o'clock on NBC. And as I said, the basketball is on USA Network. Let's see, women's beach volleyball. Sometimes people like that they are going to be this morning, and so anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens as we go through. I don't like the golf setup. I never have thought it was very good. I didn't know exactly how they did it, whether they changed it or not. But I don't know if we'll see any of that or not. The Coleman kid from Antonio Coleman from Saraland committed to Auburn. I do think that probably be on the Derek Smith kid that money went down because he flipped. I don't know whether Coleman's money went changed or not, but I do think probably they ended up buying a couple of them there, and a couple of them, and maybe Coleman was one of them, was close by and always loved Auburn, so I don't know that he had what the situation is. Antitrust lawsuit is coming to an end. I think the biggest thing is the future of walk-ons, the uncertainty of walk-ons. The number 105 is a little bit of a killer for those who really have had a lot of walk-ons, and so we'll see what happens. Braves won 5-1. I got Tom Hart on today in the second hour. Of course, JC's very good too, and Tom.
Well, that's tomorrow. We have JC's on Thursdays.
Okay.
We have Bill Cameron at 8:15. Or is Bill not on today?
I screwed it up. I thought Bill Cameron was tomorrow. I've got so much going on at home. I'm sorry. I got to call Tom Hart then and get that straight. I told Tom that we're having him on today.
We have him on at 8 if he wants. Well, we got Justin Troll at 8. So anyway, if he can be at 7:30, we could do 7:30.
Well, I'll have to call Tom and see if he can do it at 8:30 his time. So
Okay.
during the commercial, it's my mistake, my fault, and so I'll try to correct it. For whatever reason, I had JC on. I had JC on, and then I had Tom Hart. So let me try to switch Tom Hart to 8:30 on our show.
All right. Today practice starts out at the university. Obviously, they're getting preparation. There won't be you won't hone in on Western Kentucky yet. You'll start trying to, reintroduce your system a little bit. It's a new system there in place. You'll start looking at some of these guys like Ryan Williams, who wasn't here for spring practice. Now it's fall camp. They'll go fall camp for a while. Then they'll start honing on their opponents, and they'll get scout teams and this, that, and the other. But it's too early for that now. Everybody's going to have an opportunity to kind of make their way. And so I always thought that, I think basketball, they're practicing year-round now, so it's not as much excitement. But I got to think it's a lot of excitement over there in the Malmore building. Those guys coming in, getting the new equipment, putting on the stuff. The coaches there for the first fall practice there. Just your thoughts about it being the first day for Kalen DeBoer. I know we had a spring, but getting ready for the season. All right, he's checking with Tom there. So Chase, chime in with me there. First day of practice. It's always kind of, everybody feels like they got a shot now at this point to be on the 2-depth chart or whatever. They can give everybody an opportunity, and eventually they'll get to a scout team and all that. But it's too early for that. But it's got to be a lot of excitement over there for the first day with practice.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm really interested, and Martin had brought it up about the wide receiver core.
Yeah.
There's so many opportunities because we don't really know what it's going to look like. A lot of them came from Washington. Some of them on the team from last year, because we know the QB spot is locked in. God forbid Jalen Murrow gets in an injury of the sort. But yeah, I'm also interested in the offensive line, like what that looks like, and going game by game, if they can be a united front and really protect Jalen Murrow, because it was a disaster last year. So.
Well, it was. It wasn't great, but I mean, I was listening this morning. We got to remember, because we were one play from the national championship as well. So this team continued to prove, finding ways to win. We act like these the coaches that were here were just absolutely the worst ever. But these guys did win. They did win the SEC. They did knock off Georgia, which Georgia was supposed to be the juggernaut, and they had Michigan on the ropes. Quite honestly, should have beat Michigan. So I don't think these guys did quite as bad a job as people around here want to make you believe.
Not at all. For both of you, Tom Hart will be on at the bottom of the hour.
Okay. That helps. All right. I tell you, we'll go ahead and take this break. We'll come back. I want to talk about the quarterback, Dad. The quarterback at Alabama, being the quarterback at Alabama brings on a lot on your shoulders. You quickly become your starting quarterback, one of the most known people in the state of Alabama, and a lot of pressure comes with that. So I know Coach waited a while last year to name Milroe. It took a while to get him, and then he seems like this year he's much more comfortable in that role. You see him up in New York meeting with the media. He was in here the other day doing some media obligations, came in here with Gary Harris. So he seems to, the popularity and the attention and all that, he seems to be handling it well. I want to talk about that when we get back from break. Plus, the phone lines will be open, 205-342-9904. 2-minute truck, they're at 1330 Martin Road East. That's where you go pick up your boxes, your packing supplies, whatever you need to make this a smooth move. It's local, out of town, out of state, no problem. Let the professionals handle it. They'll take great care of you and your stuff. Give them a call today, 205-247-5050. It's 2 Men in a Truck, movers who care.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We have picked up a problem spot in Lawley, Bibb County. This involves an overturned vehicle eastbound 82 near County Road 423. You do have partial road blockage, so be aware of that. We aren't seeing a whole lot of backup there, but it is working at the present time. No big problems for 2059 drivers into and out of the Tuscaloosa area. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Wednesday morning. That alleged racial slur by the co-owner of Nick's Original Filet House in West Tuscaloosa continues to draw pushback in the community. At last night's city council meeting, District 1's Matthew Wilson told the council what happened last week is not indicative of the city as a whole. Council President Kip Tyner said the original owners of Nick's are hard.
National nonprofit offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
365, 24/7. You'll find road and utility crews, tow trucks, law enforcement, and first responders working along Alabama's roadway.
We're making improvements and helping our communities stay connected.
We're working hard to make sure you're safe on the road. And now we need your help to make sure we're safe too.
Alabama's Move Over law requires you to move over a lane when you see flashing lights on the road.
Ox Home Services. Call Ox Home Services today at 205-979-0946 or visit oxhomeservices.com.
The Alabama Securities Commission protects you from financial fraud. Anyone asking you for investment money must be licensed. You're careful with your money. Fraudsters aren't. Before you invest, call our hotline at 1-800-222-1253 to verify the licensing of the person making an offer and the product. Don't lose your SC.alabama.gov. Paid for by the Investor Protection Trust and brought to you by the Alabama Broadcasters Association and this station.
This report is sponsored by Positive Coaching Alliance.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Good morning. Heat advisories in effect until 9 p.m. tonight. Heat index values reaching 108 today. Going to be hot and humid, partly sunny skies, highs near 95. Stay hydrated. Take frequent breaks if you're going to be outdoors. Tonight, expect partly cloudy skies with a low near 75. A slight chance of an isolated shower or storm early Thursday morning. Otherwise, tomorrow will be mostly sunny with highs near 95.
I'm meteorologist Bill Murray on Tide 100.9.
Alabama fans are all over the world, and we are too. Download the Tide 100.9 app right now in the App Store and Google Play, and take the Crimson Tide everywhere you go.
Pressure-treated pine from Great Southern Wood. Always remember, if it doesn't have the yellow tag on it, then you certainly don't want it. Dad, I was talking about Milroe. When you become, I'd like to maybe eventually get a couple quarterbacks on that have gone through the pressure of being the quarterback at Alabama. That comes with a lot of responsibility. You're out front, in front of the media. The media, everybody wants a piece of you. They've had Jalen on kind of a media tour, which I think he's done a terrific job with. He represents the university in a first-class manner. But when that's thrown on you the first year, last year, you have to kind of grow into that role. I think he's handled it extremely well. I look for him to have a great season this year. Have you seen that with the quarterbacks at Alabama, the Joe Namath, and you can go all the way through the list of the guys. But that's a lot of responsibility on a guy's shoulders that young here at the University of Alabama.
Well, it's kind of a make or break deal for them. They, if you don't play well, then there were a couple that were highly thought of and then ended up not doing what they had hoped that they would do, and they got the criticism that the coaches get, that the college coaches get. So yes, it is that by me saying that means that they can get the good and bad part. But I think right now where the media has picked up since I first went to Alabama and Joe came in. Joe got a lot of publicity, especially one of the funny things, Barry, was that Coach Bryant invited Joe to come up in his tower. And he was the first player, I think I'm correct, he was the first football prospect to ever come up in Coach's tower. And it made a big deal. But back to Milroe, yes, I think he he comes over well. I think you're going to see his play a little bit different. And I think the offensive coordinators last year did a good job, that nobody does but me. But I think there'll be a downfield. I think there'll be more of a downfield opportunity to run with the football. But if it's not there, pass it, or to pass the football. If it's not there, run it. It's more like that. It's going to be a downfield passing game, and your quarterbacks are going to be really, really involved in the offense. They always are, of course, but I think to a little bit more extent this time.
Yeah, you go back and think about the quarterbacks that have been here. Bryce Young was clearly, winning the Heisman Trophy, was clearly head and shoulders above. But you had a situation where Jalen Hurts was criticized so bad around here. He was freshman of the year, and people criticized him. And you had Tua there nipping his heels. Tua comes in and makes the play there. Then Tua ends up starting over Jalen the next year. And a lot of Alabama people just didn't think Jalen Hurts could play at all. Now, both these guys are making over $200 million. And you had Mac Jones, I believe, in that quarterback room as well.
There was one that did, and that was Nick Saban. Nick Saban, I can tell you right now, if you get him off to the side and talk to him, Jalen Hurts was one of his favorite guys. He thought on and off the field. And I think he thought about Jalen Hurts was that he handled adversity well, which was really big. When things did, when Tua was there and there was a lot of adversity there, that he really, really handled it. It was smart and came from. I think Coach thought that of all the quarterbacks he handled adversity as well as anybody he's had.
I think Milroe last year he had to win the job. Okay, he won it. I think I heard yesterday he finished 6th in the Heisman there, and he was playing really well at the end of the year. So he doesn't have. Ty Simpson is there. Hopefully he gets to play a lot and get some experience there. I think when this season's over, if Jalen Milroe does what he's supposed to do, then I think he's going on to the NFL. I don't think he's going to come back for that senior year. But I think when that last ball hits the ground this year, I think this coaching staff got to know if Ty Simpson can play or not.
Well, I think Ty Simpson, if anybody, I think Tom will agree with me on this one, if anybody deserves an opportunity to play, an opportunity to show himself what he can do on the field itself, I think it's Ty. Because the guys that came in and played in the South Florida game last year caught the blunt of a lot of people who weren't ready to play, and that's the offensive line. And they caught the tickets, and they weren't good enough for this, good enough for that. And I think Ty Simpson's got a lot to him just by trying to stay at Alabama and play, although he could have transferred out, gone in a lot of places, and played right off the bat now. So you got to give him a lot of credit.
Yeah, I think they got to figure out during this season if he's the guy for next year or not. You got the freshman from Texas coming in, but it's hard for freshmen. You've got Mac that's here, but I don't know that he's going to get enough time to. And then you got Lonergan, but they got to know: do we have the starting quarterback, or do we have to go to the portal and get that guy? And hopefully Ty is the guy, but I think they got to play him enough to know.
I think the quarterback room is full for next year already. I don't think they'll go anywhere. I think they have, from what I can gather, have a lot of confidence in the guy from SMU that they got, good or bad. I know it's going to be new for him, but from what I can hear, their quarterback room with Milroe gone is going to be a good quarterback room.
Yeah, I know people are sitting there, wait a minute, you're talking about Milroe gone. We haven't even started the season.
Yeah, that's right.
But I don't think that he has anybody. I don't think Ty's on his heels to where if he's not playing well in that Georgia game, you're going to hear people, I don't want to say boo, but almost boo, to where they're wanting you to go ahead and make the change. It doesn't seem like it. Maybe it is. Maybe, and because I haven't been out there, maybe it is closer than we think. It doesn't seem like it's that close. I mean, he's the clear, which is what you want. I think the clear-cut guy So you're not going to question it. If something doesn't go wrong, you're going to stick with him and let him play through it. He's got a couple games early that he can win before he goes to Wisconsin. I heard people talk about what are your biggest concerns with this team. And my biggest concern would be, just like with the Auburn recruiting situation, this thing is cutthroat. And not that Washington's played in some big games and Kalen DeBoer's coached in some big games. I'm not saying that, but when you go to Baton Rouge, when you go to Knoxville, Tennessee, when you go to these places, it's just going to be completely different. Those environments are crazy. Do those take a little bit of time to learn how to coach in those environments? Because you have the highs and the lows, and the crowds are so crazy. Is that not a factor at all?
I don't think it's a factor. I think when you go against Texas, and you win the way you won, and you get to where you've gotten, I don't think it is. I think this guy has been in very, very tough situations. Which meant a great deal to the place that he was at. That doesn't mean a great deal to people in Alabama because he thinks it's down, but I think it meant a great deal, and it was a lot of pressure on him to be successful prior to Washington and at Washington. So I feel like it's this coaching staff is going to be doing the right thing. So
yeah. All right, we'll get to the Yellowwood hotline. Get Tom in. Good morning, Tom.
Morning, Barry. Morning, Coach. How are y'all?
Good.
Okay. Hang in.
I kind of disagree with what y'all are saying about Ty and backup quarterbacks in general in this day and age. I think, though, that we have made the statement on this show that things are different now than what they were even 5 years ago with players and transfer portals and all like that. I think if you don't sit down and shoot these kids straight, you're in trouble. And I got to believe that Ty is an intelligent young man. So far, the quarterbacks at Alabama have shown a high level of IQ on the field and off the field, and any way you want to stack them up. Very talented, polished individual. And I just don't think you can deal with these kids without being straightforward and telling them, this is what we've got planned. Here's how we see this playing out. And I think that's what we're missing here.
I mean, what did we say? That I just said that they need to play the kid, and when the season's over, they need to know whether they think that he's good enough to win with. I agree with you that I think,
and they need to say that. That's my point. They have to be honest enough and forthcoming enough to say, "Ty, we don't think you're going to make it for us." Or, on the other hand, you're going to be our guy, so get ready.
Well, they're going to do that by if they do what I say. By their actions after the season, if what Dad says is true, and they just bring the kid in from Texas and everything stays the same, then they feel like he's the guy. If he doesn't, then you'll see them go to the portal and get a guy with some experience. So I'm sure they will have that conversation. And I do think he's handled it in a very mature manner.
Sure, that's my point.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I want to say to you, Tom, is what I agreed with you in that Ty has already shown that because he had a chance to leave and did not leave.
Exactly.
He's already shown that.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, and I think what I'm saying, I'm kind of saying the same thing here. I shouldn't have said I disagree because that's really not true. But I think that conversation has already took place, don't you? Or he would have been gone, Coach.
Sure.
I really believe that.
I think, he feels like he's still got an opportunity to play some. And after this year, if this guy from SMU walks in on him, then he'll be 8 out the game.
Right. I agree, and everybody, I guarantee, get ready because Jesus is in Texas right now playing high school ball. And and he'll be coming, and he'll be the greatest thing since sliced bread. But that may not be true on the field. But in the media, he'll be Jesus, the Jesus of football, and all that kind of stuff like that. So get ready for that kind of talk.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to be sitting there thinking that guy from Texas is going to come.
Well, they
come
killed Jalen Hurts.
But I don't.
They killed him on this radio station.
Yeah, but I'm saying he was starting, and so I don't think they're thinking this kid from Texas is going to come in here and be the starter his freshman year. Now he may come in here and earn it, but I don't think they're going to be thinking that. I hope they get to play Ty more. I think Ty's handled it in a mature situation, a mature way during a difficult time. I think Milroe has really matured and handled being the quarterback at the University of Alabama about as good as you can do during the offseason.
On the car wash that he went through in New York, and then even on Gary's show the other day, I don't know if you know or not, but he kind of showed up and went through an interview with Rodney Orr and Gary on the radio. And I'm just amazed at how polished he is with his language and demeanor and everything about him. It's so polished and refined.
Yeah, it makes you proud to be pulling for a guy like that, and you want him to be successful.
Yeah. Not only that, but I think about the staff in the athletic department that works with these kids about how to handle yourself in front of media. You know what I mean? The thing about Alabama quarterbacks is you're going to get attention. You ain't got to go looking for it.
Yeah.
But when you do get it, you better be ready to handle it.
Yeah, and I think the guys lately have. I think they've done good. Bryce Young was terrific with the media. Mac Jones was good with the media. I think Tua and Jalen Hurts were good with the media. Thank you, Tom.
Out to New Febreze Coffee, giving you a chance to win free gas.
No purchase necessary. Must be 18 to enter N73124 for rules and how to enter. Visit Febreze.com.
Road tripping, business travel, or bringing your car in for repairs. All great reasons to rent a Toyota at Tuscaloosa Toyota. You can rent the latest Toyota models for a day, a week, or a weekend. Every Toyota rental car comes with 24 hours roadside assistance.
The Brewing Company on Saturday, August 24th. Doors open up at 3 p.m. Tickets are $10 with proceeds benefiting the Tuscaloosa Metro Animal Shelter. Learn more at ashfest.org.
You're listening to Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. Yellowwood Pressure Treated Pine from Great Southern bring you the 7 o'clock hour. If it doesn't have the yellow tag on it, you don't want to argue. Right to the Yellowwood hotline. He's with ESPN, the SEC Network. You'll call football coming up, obviously basketball and baseball, the great Tom Hart. Good morning, Tom. How are you?
Hey, Tom. Sorry.
Wimp, how we doing this morning?
Fine. I'm sorry I missed up the time. I had just my fault. But I appreciate you being able to switch and come to us today at your time. Before we get to maybe football, everybody talks about football. I wish you would give our listeners a little bit of talk about the previous baseball season and your feelings about it.
The college baseball season? Yeah. Well, anytime I talk college baseball, I end up talking about big league baseball, and I'll tell you why. You look at what Paul Skeens has done this season in the majors, and it's taken a lot of people by surprise. But those of us who saw him knew that he was a generational talent. And I think those in the SEC, played against him every day. And, of course, he won a national championship with LSU. And so now seeing that immediate success, I got to be honest, like sometimes – doubt creeps into your mind. I'm not a scout. I'm not a talent evaluator, but I've seen enough great players that I think I know what I'm talking about when it comes to the elite ones. And then you think to yourself, well, the guys who get paid to scout and get paid to celebrate these guys and come up with prospect lists. Don't think he's as great as I do. So that was reassuring, not for my ego, but to understand that, man, the talent level in college baseball is a lot better and gets better each and every year. So fast forward to this previous season, and especially now that we're post-draft, Jack Caglione, Florida, the two-way guy, first baseman and pitcher, went a little bit lower in the draft than I expected. I thought he had a chance to go number one overall, and I still think he has a chance to be a superstar, a Pete Alonso, somewhere between, given his position and his power. I think this guy, we look up in 6 years and we go, okay, this guy's somewhere between Pete Alonso and Aaron Judge. He's that good, and he's that powerful a player and a hitter. So I think that's really exciting. I think what Charlie Condon did at Georgia, just rewrote every hitting metric in the SEC outside of Dave Magadan's batting average record, is going to have a long MLB career, multiple-time All-Star. And then going forward, Wimp, I think what's really interesting about baseball is with all of these roster changes that the NCAA is going to start to allow, most of them make no sense, right? No, who's going to use 45 scholarships for tumbling? It ain't happening. It's just a way to grease the political wheels and get people to say, oh, look, they're doing something. But most of that is just farcical. I don't think most men's basketball teams, the elite ones, are going to use 15 scholarships. They don't want 15 scholarship players. They want, 10 or 11 and a few walk-ons. But baseball needed those scholarships, and baseball, that makes a lot of sense for them to have them. And that's going to be beneficial to those elite players who now have more opportunity.
Yeah, well, I guess we need to get off of that. I got you on it because our listeners want to know about what the antitrust lawsuit deals are. I don't know if you studied. I've tried to study it and don't know much, but I do know that the walk-on situations for football is, in some cases, the Davos are upset, not having more. Any comments on what's taking place there with the NCAA and the lawyers and all?
Well, I think it's hard. There's a lot I don't understand.
Yeah, me too.
It's hard for me to understand how you can satisfy antitrust concerns. It goes back to the Sherman Act by then putting a limit on how much these athletes can be paid and putting limits on how these deals are structured, with any deal coming from a third party over $600,000 demanding further review. That seems antitrust to me. Because it has not been collectively bargained. It has been agreed to by a subset of lawyers that claim that they represent X number of student athletes, but they don't represent all of them. And we've already seen two state attorneys general push back and say, no, this is not going to fly in our state. This is not fair to our teams. And I think you're going to see that on almost a weekly basis if this thing does go into effect and these schools start landing NIL deals over $600,000, which we know exists.
I thought it was $600, not $600,000. $600,000 or $600?
I thought it was $600,000, but to me,
yeah.
Well, then that's even more ridiculous because $600. I mean, people getting $600 worth of pizza.
They're saying the collectives need to go away and we need to get back to true NIL. So if somebody's doing something for somebody, then they need to be paid accordingly, not get a can of food and take it down to the food bank and pay the guy $100,000. So they want to just justify that whatever the NIL is legit. They're going to get that on top of the revenue sharing there. If it's over $600, then it has to be approved by a committee there. Yeah.
Well, then, and they claim that will turn these things in less than 45 days.
Yeah.
That sounds impossible to me. I mean, everybody on the Tennessee football team has an NIL deal worth more than $600.
Yeah.
So you're going to get the entire, all 120, what will be 120 scholarship players, but any SEC football team primarily, you're going to get them through the clearinghouse for 45 days?
Yeah.
And have a third party. But what it comes down to, Barry, is that's fine, and I understand the goal there. I think anybody with common sense goes, yeah, we gotta find a way to rein this in a little bit. But then you run right back into that Antitrust Act. Is who's to tell? If Yellowwood wants to pay me $100,000 a year to wear a yellow jacket when I'm on air, who's to say that Yellowwood can't spend their money however they want to?
Yeah. Before we get to baseball, is the one I agree with you. I like the scholarships, but when you trim that roster by 6, which I know they used to only have 35, so that's not that big of a deal. But the question is, Tom, let's say these SEC teams all have 34 fulls. When do you have to be at the 34? Is that in the fall when school starts here in 2 weeks? Then you start getting a couple pitchers hurt and boom, you can't replace them? Or can you bring in more and then figure it out, in the spring? That's the big question with all the baseball guys, because your roster get thin real fast if that 34's got to be determined in the fall. And then you have 3 guys that got to have Tommy John surgery. It could get thin on you pretty quick.
Yeah, that's a big question. And I don't, as far as I know, that answer is not out there at this point. I've always been torn on the roster situation for college baseball in the fall. Texas used to do this really well, and plenty of schools in the SEC did as well. I just remember talking with Augie Garrido about it back in the day. Is you could bring in almost as many guys as you wanted in the fall.
Yeah.
And you could have 3 months of tryouts. And I suppose you look at it from the player perspective, that player can say, hey, I got a shot to make the team at Texas. This is a big-time program. This is an opportunity for me, and I got 3 months to prove it. And that's good. But when there's twice as many guys there as can make the roster, that's just hoarding talent, right? That's why we ended up getting scholarship limitations, primarily in football in the first place. And in the end, it's not really good for the player because it keeps him from being at the school that he should be at and the school that wants him. I think the football scholarship situation is fascinating, guys, because I don't know. Yes, we're getting rid of walk-ons according to this plan, and that would hurt some programs and some players. But then you're adding so many more to the elite or players. Is that good for competitive balance or bad? Because then the middle tier programs will have that same opportunity to warehouse players, right? Yeah. That they're going to warehouse, like Ole Miss is going to warehouse guys that otherwise would end up at UAB, and then UAB is going to warehouse guys that otherwise would end up, at another level, at another school. So, but let's be honest, plenty of these schools outside of the Power Four, probably even some Power Four, they're not going to use 120 scholarships.
No.
That's, and these other sports, how many scholarships do we need for equestrian? They're not using them. It's just political, grandstanding to say, oh, look what we've done to make everything better, when it's farcical. It's not reality.
Tom, getting a little bit away from that, instead of asking who's going to beat who, because nobody knows the answer to that, is there any problems with the 12-team playoff that we don't foresee? Maybe number one, having to wait a long time before they play, the injury factor, playing as many games if you go through it. Any thoughts on the 12-team playoff?
Well, thank you so much, because no, none of if we knew and we could predict game results in on August 1st and who was going to be, we'd all have mansions in Vegas, right next to those casinos.
I don't want that.
No, I think what will really be interesting to follow, and we'll think we have a good feel for it, but we won't know until the end, is how these spots are divvied up. Group of 5 getting a spot. Big 12's probably going to get 1. ACC might get 2, but no more than 2, I wouldn't think. Notre Dame is in line to get 1. So that's 5. That leaves 7. If the ACC gets 2, that leaves 7 for the Big 10 and the SEC. So that'll be really interesting. I didn't see the follow-up questions from earlier, and I believe it was Big 12 Media Days, a guy from the NCAA spoke, and he spoke. I don't think he did a very good job explaining some of these issues with the playoff, because he made a reference to weather impacting, schools getting games and being host. Hotel space impacting whether or not schools can host. No. It should be who is deserving. They should be the ones that get to host. And I understand that there's, spots reserved for conference champions. So you may have somebody who would be seated lower having an opportunity to host because they want, but that doesn't bother me. But never, just doing a comp to baseball, never in the history of the NCAA baseball tournament do I remember the committee coming out on Monday and saying, well, Louisiana Lafayette deserves to host, but there might be a thunderstorm. So we're going to give this regional to Texas. No, it's not how it works. If it's going to be cold in Minneapolis and Minnesota deserves a chance to host, then they deserve the chance to host.
Yeah.
Now, if they say, for whatever reason, we can't handle it, that's a different story, but I can't imagine that happening.
No.
And then secondarily, I think that once those top four seeds see the value of hosting, they're going to say, hold on, we got to figure out how to get more games on campus. But remember, this is just year one. There's a lot of involvement still to come in this thing.
Fall practice starts today here in Tuscaloosa. Coach DeBoer's come in, and he's doing it his way. He's leaned on Coach, and Coach is giving some recommendations about some things. I think the defense coordinator has been over there, but he's also been successful. He's going to practice in the mornings, which is no big deal. I mean, he's going to go 9 today. I think when school gets started, they may go as early as 7 in the morning. But I think Kalen DeBoer, the transition there with Kalen DeBoer, now they haven't played a game, but it's been about as smooth as it could be. I guess Greg Burns smiling about that now. When they played, they're going to have to win. Obviously, they're going to have to beat Georgia here. People will start complaining about maybe the changes that he's made. But just talk about how smooth this, or maybe you don't think it's smooth, how smooth this transition has been from Nick Saban to Kalen DeBoer.
Well, I think that that's probably reflective of the type of guy you hired and the personality you hired, right?
True.
You could have hired any other stubborn, we only do it my way, I don't want to hear from that guy, egotistical coach, and we'd probably be having a different discussion right now. I remember being around the Florida facility when Spurrier was there, and he popped by to talk to us, and, he wasn't being egotistical, but the offense was really struggling, and they had a quarterback that was similar to what he had done. I forget who it was at the time, and he's like, you know what? I could show him 2 things that we did, and it would totally change the entire dynamic of the offense. But they don't want to hear from me.
Yeah,
and that to me that sounded ridiculous, and I know there is a fine line, right? But to me, the fine line really deals with, how the public reacts to it and what they think of that coach. And if that former coach goes out and says, yeah, I've been coaching up so-and-so, then that could create some problems. But if you're in the building and you swing by and you go, hey, have you guys considered this? Or here's an issue we ran into with this team. Why wouldn't you open your eyes and ears up to it? I mean, it just makes too much sense.
Yeah. Good point. That.
Trying to cover everything with you before you get out of here. We had certainly a big wow when Cal went to Arkansas in basketball. We're going to have Garth Grisman on our show Tuesday to talk about the schedules and so forth with the SEC office. So him going there to Arkansas and taking a lot of his players with him, and also some of the signees with him. Alabama and Arkansas will probably be the favorite team to win the league next year. Alabama had a great recruiting year. Kentucky, I don't know, may be good too. Quite different comments on how that change was made and what's going on with those two schools?
Well, I've said this before, and don't confuse this. I'm not an Arkansas fan, so to speak, but I think SEC basketball is better as a whole when Arkansas is one of the best teams and Arkansas is nationally relevant, because that fan base, they're probably not going to have much to cheer about for football this season. That tradition goes back decades. They've got national championship banners hanging there, and it can be a wow environment. I think that the Duke game showed it last year, and that caught national attention, and that's good for the SEC. That's really good. As far as Calipari specifically, they signed a 5-star point guard last week, and I was just talking to people in the building a couple of days ago. They really needed to hit the ground running from a recruiting standpoint to quell any questions and to be able to say, hey, listen, this is Cal. This is what he does. He did the unthinkable at UMass, which hadn't had success. He built the thing at Memphis and got Derrick Rose, and then showed up with John Wall at Kentucky, and boom, things were ripping and roaring. If you go to Arkansas and you're unable to make a splash in the recruiting world right off the bat, then I think you invite a lot of naysayers and negative recruiting. Yeah. But by going in there and doing what they've done already, it's very easy for then the optics to be positive and for the narrative to be, this is Cal, this is what he does no matter where he's at. And that was incredibly important to him as a recruiter and to that staff and to that program. And so they're able to pull that off. And, that's a big win. One guy, and they got more than that one 5-star, may not be a huge difference maker. He's probably not going to be as good as John Wall. But I think just the message that it sends is what brings it value. Yeah.
Lastly, Tom, football season will get started. You can see the way these guys' schedules, there's different philosophies. You got some people playing 1AA schools, and you got Clemson and Georgia playing. Now, Dad wants to play Slippery Rock the first. So play Slippery on Saturday and Rock the next Saturday. He doesn't want to play anybody. I disagree. I guess it depends on where your program is. But if you're going to losing early, he says you're going to lose your fan base, but I think it gives you a time to get back. Now, as a spectator, I want to watch Clemson and Georgia and USC and LSU and, Miami and Florida as a spectator. But what is the right way to go there? Dad wants to play Slippery Rock. Who does Tom want?
If I lose that first game, I have a hard time getting my guys ready to play in that 12-team, get to the 12-team playoff. I want to win that first one, having everybody on the back.
There you go. Tom.
Well, remember Ohio State made a 14 playoff when they lost to Virginia Tech in September. So there was room for an early loss depending on what your name brand is. And I think that was a big component of Ohio State making the playoff that year. There's more room for losses.
State. Go ahead.
No, I understand. And that's, to answer the question, that's what I come back to. It really depends on who you are.
Yeah.
It really depends on your name brand and what your strength of schedule will be at the end of the season. I'm with Barry. I think that it's important for the sport. I think as caretakers of the sport, Joe Paterno and I had this discussion. I may have shared the story with you. You remember when Joe Pa and Alabama played early 2000s?
Yeah.
And that game was actually scheduled, I believe, for when Shula was the coach. But Mal Moore came to – my details might be a hair off, so somebody could correct me, but this is as I remember the conversation with Joe Pa. It was scheduled when Shula was the coach, and Mal Moore came to him and said, hey, listen, we're not ready for this game. Can we push it back? And Paterno said, yeah, sure. And I said, Coach, why would you do that? You had a chance to beat Alabama. Your program was here. They were down here. And now it's been reversed for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is Nick Saban is now the head coach at Alabama. And now you've got a behemoth on your hands, man. And he goes, yeah, Tom, but it's great for college football. And he goes, and I believe at Penn State, we're one of the caretakers of the sport. And sometimes you don't just do what's best for you. You do what's best for the entire sport because it's given me so much over the years. Why wouldn't I? And he goes, and Mal asked me to do it, so I agreed to do it. And I've had that conversation with basketball coaches before. I mean, I had the conversation with Bill Self years ago. You know, Kansas is the caretaker of college basketball. The better schedule that they play and more nationally televised games to get people interested in college basketball, especially in November, December, is better for the sport. We need that to happen in many ways. If everybody said, no, we're just going to sit back and play Sisters of the Poor through September so we can be undefeated, college football would be in a terrible place. So there has to be some balance.
I played North Carolina, and I played UCLA out there when they were number one in the country. But when you're a guy like me that takes the job and nobody wants you, and you want to be darn sure that you're – the last time I looked, it wasn't basketball wasn't really exciting with Coach Bryant there when I got that job. So I wanted to win a game or two. That's all.
Well –
no, and that's everybody's going to attack it differently, right?
Yeah.
But if the big dogs don't, if Georgia and Clemson don't agree to that and don't agree to punch above their weight early in the season, then it's bad for the rest of the sport. And I think that allows those other schools. Look at Missouri's early season schedule, right? Murray State, UMass, and the like. Georgia playing Clemson allows Missouri to play UMass.
Yeah, I think it depends on where you're like Florida doesn't need to be playing Miami the first game. They need to win because they're right. Just, but I think it's okay for Georgia to do it. It's okay. Now LSU, I'm not sure. They're going to play USC. They need to win that.
What about A&M and Notre Dame? Yeah. Right? A&M's trying to break in a new coach, and they got to.
But a new coach, he's on the honeymoon, so it's okay, I think. But when your job's on the line, like the guy at Florida, I would probably play somebody I could beat, keep him off of me a little bit. But if I'm Kirby, then I'm fine with him playing Clemson.
And when you're not wanted, you play an easy opening game.
Yeah. So I think it depends on where you are. But I like what you said about what Joe Paterno said. I got some teams here in this area that won't play me in my high school team. They need to listen to what you just said. Do it because it's the right thing to do. Tom, we appreciate it, my man. Appreciate you being on with us.
All right, fellas. Hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it. Sorry I messed up the times. Thank you.
It's great, Tom Hart there. All right, we'll take this break. Listen to Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM. WTBC is the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. The drive along McFarland Boulevard from Coker to Jack Warner is 15 minutes, and along Lurling Wallace, just 5 minutes from McFarland down to the 15th Street exit. We are looking at an accident in Bibb County. This is the town of Lawley. We've got an overturned vehicle still partially blocking Highway 82 at County Road 423. There is a small backup through the area. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
Go inside the Alabama Crimson Tide with the Gary Harris Show.
Hey, everybody, it's Gary Harris. Wednesday morning at 9 a.m., it's the Gary Harris Show, and we're going to take a break with Matt Coulter for the NASCAR report because there's no race for a couple of weeks due to the Olympics, so we won't have Matt, but we will have the coach, Ellis Johnson, breaking down SEC football. He'll be with us, plus Alabama opens up fall camp, so a ton of football discussion on the Gary Harris Show.
Get matched at Mattress Firm. Sleep at night. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Good morning. Heat advisory is in effect until 9 p.m. tonight. Heat index values reaching 108 today. Going to be hot and humid. Partly sunny skies. Highs near 95. Stay hydrated. Take frequent breaks if you're going to be outdoors. Tonight, expect partly cloudy skies with a low near 75. A slight chance of an isolated shower or storm early Thursday morning. Otherwise, tomorrow will be mostly sunny with highs near 95.
I'm meteorologist Bill Murray on Tide 100.9.
The best station in the state, breaking down Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to Inside Locker. I'll do it for the 7 o'clock hour. We want to thank Pressure Treated Pine from Great Southern Wood. Build the 5-star backyard, the fence, the deck, the pergola is only one choice. That's Yellowwood. Go to yellowwood.com to find the
in Alabama. Julio Jones Kia off Greensboro Ave. Stop in today or visit us online at buyfromjulio.com.
Buyers must have qualified credit. Not all buyers will qualify.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Eddie Garcia.
At the Olympics, U.S. men's basketball team will play its second game in Paris against South Sudan later today. The 2-0 U.S. women's soccer team will face Australia, and several medals will be handed out in swimming as well. The U.S. leading all nations with 26 total medals. Baseball's trade deadline came and went. 31 players were moved, but no big names. Dodgers make the biggest splash, adding starting pitcher Jack Flaherty from the Tigers. On the field, the Yankees edge the NL East, leading Phillies 7-6 in 12 innings. Orioles over the Blue Jays 6-2. Baltimore still a half game up on New York for first in the AL East. Dodgers blew a 5-0 lead, lose to the Padres 6-5 in 10 innings. Astros fall to the Pirates 6-2, while the Mariners outscore the Red Sox 10-6. Seattle moves one game up on Houston for the AL West lead. Guardians beat the Tigers 5-0 and move into a tie with Philadelphia for baseball's best overall record at 65-42. Braves knock off the NL Central leading Brewers 5-1.
Inside the Locker Room with former Crimson Tide basketball coach Wimp Sanderson and his son, former SEC and ACC assistant basketball coach Barry Sanderson. It's time to take you inside the locker room on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to the second hour of Inside the Locker Room. Andrew Kniffer, he's my Allstate insurance agent. Let him become yours at 4705 McFarland Boulevard, Suite 3 over in Northport. Give him and staff a call, 205-722-9201. They'll take great care of you. They do it for me. You're looking for home, life, auto. You got the local flavor with Andrew and his staff, but the backing of a national company, Allstate Insurance. They are the absolute best. Give them a call today. Once again, 205-722-9201. It's Wednesday. We'll go out to right here at the end of the month, so we'll get the real figures. Right now, we'll go down to Tuscaloosa Toyota, and we'll talk with Justin. Good morning, Justin. How are you?
Morning. Man, how are you guys doing? I'm doing good.
We're good. We're good. Last day of the month. How many we got sold over there, Justin?
We're about 18 cars away from 300, so 300s are always, and Barry, it's one of those things where, 300's like a goal. Anytime we reach that goal, it's over and beyond. That means that we hit our new car objective by a lot of units, like in the 120%. And then used cars, we're right there in the 153, I think 153 for the month. So we've had a spectacular month, and there's a good chance today we hit 300 again. This will be for the year, it'll be the 7th month in a row.
Well, if you're looking to buy a car, get out there and get them to the 300 today, or either start next month. Tell us about some of the hot sellers out there right now, Justin.
Well, we've just got the all-new redesigned Land Cruiser that, used to you buy Land Cruisers and they would be somewhere around $90,000, and now you can buy this all-new Land Cruiser with all the updated technology, and it's flying off the lot, and we can't keep those in stock. So those are running in the 60s, and wow. You can buy one model that's in the 50s. And that one is the first, basically your first Land Cruiser that ever come out. The way it's designed and everything, the one you can buy in the 50s. Is that one. And so those things we're selling those like crazy. I mean, now it's affordable for a lot of more people. And so the Land Cruiser, rugged, off-road, on-road, whatever the case may be, tons of power, four-wheel drive, those things are great. So that's probably your hottest because it's new. And then, the number one selling car in the United States is the RAV4. And the number one selling sedan in the United States is a Camry. So we're selling tons of those. They all have special financing with rates as low as in the 2s. I mean, how about that? What a better time to buy. And like I tell you guys, every single week, we price everything to sell. We don't price it because we're in love with it. We want it gone. So That's how we price them, and you got great interest rates, and they all come with a lifetime warranty, and you can't beat that. You can see it all right there, at TuscaloosaToyota.com.
Yep.
Well, I don't really have anything to add to that. The one I got there has been great, and I'm enjoying it and driving it a lot, and everybody will go by visit with Justin, and I think you'll find exactly what you want. They do a great job.
Yeah, we were over at my daughter's. She moved to Birmingham, and we were over there. She's having a baby, and they were having a gender reveal. So Dad had to pull that. She's got a really steep driveway. He had to pull that car down. We had to back it down to get my mom in the car, and that thing's so quiet. I kept telling him, turn the car on so you can go get up the hill. It's on. I didn't know those hybrids are so quiet. Those are smooth.
Only twice.
Smooth driving cars, aren't they, Justin?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because a lot of times the first-time buyers of a hybrid, they'll turn the car on, and it's funny. I'll watch them. The car will be on, but they'll hit the the start button multiple times. And I'm like, whoa. I said, the car's on. It's just that quiet. And when you go drive anything like the big SUV, like the Sequoia and the Tundra, I mean, that you expect those to be rumbling engines and be loud or whatever. But man, those things are so quiet. And then you got them in all those sedans and SUVs and stuff. They're super quiet.
I don't see that we need to. I don't need to see that we need to talk about not cutting them off, please.
Yeah.
I don't need to talk about that.
Did you hear his story about
the audience? Have a new audience every day. They haven't heard the story. So go ahead.
We won't tell that story. But
no, you can. I don't care.
Did you hear the story about when he was over in Paris, Justin?
I hadn't told that yet.
Yeah, he was over in Paris, and he and Coach Odom, guy worked for at Wake Forest in South Carolina, were over there. Yeah. I don't know what they were doing over there. They had a rental vehicle, and so they needed some gas, and they pulled off. And so Dad got out to pump the gas, and the guy came running out, and he filled that tank, Justin, with diesel fuel. No. First of all, I didn't know. I thought the nozzle would be to get in there, but he didn't. He filled it. So do you have a car? If you have a car that you can put regular gas and diesel in, maybe you should sell that to him next time. That way he won't make that mistake again. He can put either one. Do y'all have a car like that?
Well, we don't. And if you did, you'd find yourself in the service department a lot. So that ain't gonna work. But you'd be amazed. We see that sometimes where people put diesel fuel. They pull up to the pump, not thinking, and got their mind on something else.
I was in Paris. I didn't know.
How does that car know whether it's diesel or not?
Well, the elements that it's made out of won't let that engine accept it. You can think of many ways that you deal with that in life, but when something goes in that's not supposed to, it's not going to act right.
I knew I couldn't suck a whole tank out, so I had to go take it through.
Now you'd probably put it in there and be able to get a few miles and get back to where you need to go, but it ain't going long.
Yeah.
No.
Well, Justin, get out there and get over 300, and we'll start a new month tomorrow, and you guys will get rocking and rolling. So we appreciate you guys, and look forward to talking to you next week. Have a great week.
All right, we appreciate you guys, and looking forward to it.
All right, there we go. There's Justin. Go down to Skyline Boulevard. Go to TuscaloosaToyota.com as well. They got a great website. All right, Philip, call us back. I meant for Philip to hold there. He was on hold. But so, Tom, I think the scheduling thing, you have to schedule based on the team that you have. And then also, I hate to say this, and of course I know these schedules are done way in advance. I think you have to almost schedule on your job status and what does your fan base feel about you.
Schedules, Barry, were 10 years in advance.
Yeah, so like Florida, they need to win some games early. They got a disgruntled fan base. They need to kind of re-energize the fan base.
Got a bad schedule.
Terrible schedule. And so I think you got to. I think Georgia's fine. If they lose, they're not going to hang Kirby. If they lose, and they can get themselves back if they lose.
Well, I had a reason for doing it the way I wanted to do it.
Yeah, all right, get to the Andrew Conifer hotline, get Philip in. Good morning, Philip.
Morning.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
We're good.
Okay.
We had a lot of talk yesterday on the station about Auburn, and it was pretty interesting. And all the shows talk about them. Is it possibly time to think about the unthinkable? And do you know what that is?
What's that?
Auburn upsetting Georgia and Athens.
Let's don't mistake. This is the recruiting is for next year, not this year. And it takes football at those guys. It takes a year or two. So let's don't get crazy, Philip.
I know what we're talking about, but we're in a real gushy Auburn sort of phase right now, and Hugh Freeze is supposedly a great coach, and that game, I'm thinking it could be kind of interesting now.
Based on what?
Well, I told y'all, and I think I told Gary.
Recruiting.
They still got.
Hear me out.
All right, go ahead.
I told Gary, and I think I told y'all a few weeks ago that Auburn is one of my surprise teams. Last year, I picked Missouri to be the surprise team in the SEC, and I think I pretty much got that right. I think Auburn this year has got that opportunity. I think they're going to be 5-0 going into the Georgia game. They're going to have a lot of confidence. Now, confidence alone won't beat Georgia. But they played Georgia pretty straight up last year for most of that game. If Georgia doesn't make some passes to Brock Bowers late in that game, I'm not sure Georgia wins that game last year.
Well, the problem you got is that's another reason why it won't be close, because that game is not going to be in Auburn this year. It's at Georgia, that's correct?
True. It is at Georgia.
Yeah, that's like when South Sudan played the Olympic team so close. That was the worst thing they could have done. You know what the line is on that game today with South Sudan, who just lost 101-100. You know what the line is today?
Probably 10.
Probably 15.
29.5.
Oh, my goodness.
So them playing on that close is going to get USA's attention, and Auburn and playing Georgia that close will have that will give Kirby Smart plenty to talk about that week.
You look at past records of Auburn at Georgia, and that doesn't mean anything. Everything is based on the game that you play that day. But Auburn going to Georgia and playing Georgia has not been very good.
Well, a lot of this is what I'm saying today is a little tongue-in-cheek, and I'm having fun with it. But I think that could be a pretty entertaining ball game.
Well,
and I've got Alabama and Auburn both being 8-3 headed into the Iron Bowl too.
You got Alabama 8-3 as well?
Yes, I've got Alabama and Auburn 8-3 heading into the Iron Bowl.
All right, so 5-0. You got beating Alabama and A&M. You got them beating Cal, beating New Mexico, beating Arkansas, and beating Oklahoma, and then they go to Georgia. See, they're going to be, if you what you say is true, Philip, they're going to be 5-0. They're going to be ranked high, and they're going to get that stadium will be rocking. Georgia will absolutely run them out of that stadium in that particular game, sure, in my opinion. So
you could be right. Yeah. You could be right. But I know one thing. I'm getting ready for the season, and I'm really looking forward to the great guests you guys have on. I assume those guys will be on again this year. I sure hope so. The various coaches you guys have on, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, Max
and
Howard.
I'm really looking forward to Coach Sampson's blue plates. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure he's already mulling over.
Yeah, it's hard. The transfer portal has got me confused, Phil, to be quite honest.
I hope he could have a better record this year, Phil.
What do you mean? My record was great last year. I'll take the same record.
I'm just kidding.
It's a lot of fun, but let's sort of semi-circle that Auburn-Georgia game. Let's sort of semi-circle it.
We'll circle it. All right.
You know, nobody ever talks, Philip, about the difficulty that Nick Saban had at Auburn. They don't.
Man,
I'm not talking about a 31-yard pass. I'm talking about throughout running a touchdown back. But that's always got. Of course, my deal was to beat Auburn every time I played them, and his was too. But nobody talks about the difficulty that they had at Auburn.
Against a bad Auburn team.
Over the years that Nick was here at Alabama.
Yeah.
Every single year. Yeah. And sometimes in Tuscaloosa.
I'm telling you what, too. Everybody says, "Oh, the Alabama's recruiting national. That's right. That's great, and they're getting great players nationally. No problem." But when that game goes down to Auburn, you got all those Alabama kids on that Auburn roster. You know, they're going to be chomping at the bit.
I said that yesterday, and I'll say it again. That's huge.
Yeah. So.
Yes, it is. But I'll tell you, I've got a theory on that Alabama-Auburn difficulty, and I'm not taking away anything against Auburn. I'm actually giving them a little credit for being ready. But I thought that Saban's goal was to A, beat LSU, B, be in the SEC championship game, 3, get into the national championship picture, and Auburn wasn't in those top 3 goals. It probably was, but I mean, to me, that was the way I viewed it.
Yeah. Well, whatever reason down there, it's a struggle. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
All right, we'll get to break here. We'll get Bill Cameron in. We'll go down to Auburn and get Bill Cameron in. Just a Tide 100.9 is the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. This morning's drive has been a mostly quiet one. We are still looking at our crash involving an overturned vehicle, though. It's along Highway 82 in the town of Lawley, Bibb County, a little bit south of Brent. Crash involves, again, an overturned vehicle. We are seeing some minor backup remaining through the area, but no big 2059 problems into and out of the region. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
Road tripping, business travel, or bringing your car in for repairs. All great reasons to rent a Toyota at Tuscaloosa Toyota. You can rent the latest Toyota models for a day, a week, or a weekend. Every Toyota rental-car comes with 24 hours roadside assistance.
Visit Hudson Pool Fine Jewelers, downtown Tuscaloosa, or at hudsonpool.com.
This report is sponsored by Compassion International.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Good morning. Heat advisory is in effect until 9 p.m. tonight. Heat index values reaching 108 today. Going to be hot and humid, partly sunny skies, highs near 95. Stay hydrated. Take frequent breaks if you're going to be outdoors. Tonight, expect partly cloudy skies with a low near 75. Slight chance of an isolated shower or storm early Thursday morning. Otherwise, tomorrow will be mostly sunny with highs near 95.
I'm meteorologist Bill Murray on Tide 100.9.
Two-time state champion and two-time NIT champion Barry Sanderson breaks down the latest in sports on Inside the Locker Room on Tide 100.9.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. All right, we'll get right up to the Yellowwood Hotline. These are the ESPN 106.7 The Drive down in Auburn, Opelika. Bill Cameron. Good morning, Bill.
Hey, Bill.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
We're doing okay. I had a visit with another person about the great recruiting at Auburn has had a Big Cat weekend, and they expressed a way that they felt like, the money came down for them, people to change their minds and so forth. And I think probably some money did come down. I won't argue that. But I do think that when you're around Auburn and it's kind of a social deal and you're not really knowing where you want to go, that you have a better chance to get a player at Auburn than people think. So your comment?
Yeah, I agree with you there, Webb. I mean, look, I'm not going to say that NIL doesn't play a factor in this at all, but I do think that I remember from Coach Dye talking about this that there's it's a little bit different. It seems like here, and when all things are equal, Auburn's got a really good shot of getting kids to come in, especially in-state kids. I mean, this is something that Hugh Freeze and his staff have really, really focused on is building the relationships, rebuilding relationships, and building relationships with in-state coaches and kids. And right now, there's an awful lot of confidence, or they really feel good about where they are. And it's your current players that have so much to do with what you're going to be able to do recruiting. I mean, coaches can say anything, and the administration, everybody. But if the current players aren't really bought in, then that's going to be a factor. So yeah, sure, NIL has something to do with it. You better be at least on an even level with the opposition. But they've got momentum. They've been building for this for a while. But I've got to say, this was the most impressive Big Cat that I can recall, and Auburn's had some pretty good ones in the past.
Alabama, they're getting a lot of flack about it. They still got the number 2 class in the country. They're going national. Their relationships are on the West Coast. They got a lot of guys from out there. But while they're out there, I think Auburn's probably circled this 5-hour radius, especially in state, and they're making sure that they build tremendous relationships with these guys. They get them down there. So maybe they're spending a little bit more time with those guys just because they're closer. I think they orchestrated when they were going to release these flips. It kind of happened throughout the day. The morning you had something, and afternoon all these commitments there. But I think it's important for the Auburn fan base. They got to feel like they can compete against Alabama. I don't think they felt that with Brian Harsin there. Maybe in recruiting, the game was maybe a lot closer than people expected. But I think it really helps the psyche of that Auburn fan base when this is happening, isn't it, Bill?
Oh, there's no question about it. Because a couple of weeks ago, a lot of the fans were down in the dumps a little bit. They were wondering, what's going on. The Auburn had lost a couple of commitments, and they weren't seeming to pick them up. And yes, it's not coincidental. I'm sure a couple of these guys were ready to announce earlier, but they wanted to go ahead and sort of build the momentum. It's something that you want to do. You want to get that momentum and see if you can't get other players caught up in it, and build that bond and try to get something rolling here. And that's exactly what they did. I was talking about it a couple of days ago on our show. I mean, it makes sense that Kalen DeBoer, he's got great contacts out on the West Coast, and you look in, 6 commitments from the state of California, and that's great. But this is an opportunity for Hugh Freeze and for Auburn. Even though Alabama's got some coaches that have great contacts here in the Southeast, Auburn has more of those guys right now, and they have a little bit of an advantage, and they're definitely trying to strike while they can.
Yeah, I think one of the problems may be with this, and this is not just for Auburn, but with this new legislation, I know there's a lot for this judge to work through, but they're talking about doing away with the collectives and making it be true NIL. So whatever these guys have been told in all these SEC schools what they're going to make for those collectives, my fear is that's going to go away. Now, they're going to revenue share. They'll get some of that, but it's got to be true NIL that's going to be approved by some third-party committee there with the NCAA. So I look for there to be a lot of hard feelings there, maybe some money that was talked about that won't happen because these things have to be legitimate now if everything stands the way it is now, Bill. Have you thought about that? Yeah, we have. I mean, this thing is there are going to be so many more changes in this, and you're absolutely right. They're going to be a lot of players going, wait, hold on, this isn't what I was promised. Yeah. But the school's going to go, hey, it's not us now. I mean, everybody's got to go by this. So there are some huge changes still yet to come. I mean, the roster sizes, the scholarship limits, are all the sports going to go to the full scholarship limit in the SEC? That's something I really am wondering about. I mean, when we were talking about it last week, we had only seen a few of the sports, but I mean, when you're talking about track and field having 40-something scholarships and
are those going to be all? Are they going to be 45 total scholarships? If you're going to have your roster filled up to that, my goodness, the number of new scholarships that are going to have to be done. And another thing that yesterday we got into it. A caller called in, and I had never really thought about this, but we were talking about Auburn and the in-state recruiting and how many players they'd gotten from in-state, and looking at Alabama's outstanding commit list, but most of them from out of state. And the caller was wondering, hey, how does that affect your athletic budget? Because the athletic department's having to pay the university for those scholarships, and it's definitely more expensive out-of-state scholarships, out-of-state tuitions, more than in-state. I'd never really thought about that before.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I don't understand this part. All right. I understand. So when they say revenue share, are they going to tell every SEC, all right, this is a number. You got a revenue share, 22, 23 million. Is it like that where everybody's revenue sharing the same within this league? And then can Greg Byrne and John Cohen decide, okay, we're going to give football this, but we'll give baseball this? And can it be different at every school to where we may be paying the football guys here more than what Auburn's paying? Or does that have to be across the board the same as well? Do you know the answer to that? I don't. That's why I'm asking.
I absolutely do not. And we had Andy Bertram was with us yesterday, and he was talking about that he's got an interview set up with John Cohen. We haven't talked to him lately, and I said, look, if you see him before we do, that's exactly one of the questions that we were talking about. How is this going to break down? Is it going to be all right? Every school in the conference has this much money that you have to dole out, or is it going to be based on the revenue that each school makes on top of that? Do you have a certain base number? I don't know the answer to that either, and that's very interesting.
Yeah, well, I think the judge still has to look at all this stuff. So I think there's a lot I don't know if they're going to get this all in by 2025. There's so many things to work out as far as like baseball. I like the 34, but you're trimming those rosters by 6. When do you have to be at 34? Bill, nobody knows the answer to that.
No, you're right. And, most schools, Auburn's going to have more than 34 kids that, in this fall. And so, I mean, they're going to have to, they're going to have to know exactly what's going on in the future. So, yeah, it's fortunate that it is 25, so we've got a little bit of time. But you're right. There's an awful lot that's got to be ironed out and put down and in black and white so that everybody knows.
Yeah. Yep.
Is the schedule satisfying for Auburn people, for you, the 5 straight home games? Is that the best way to go to get this team off to a good start? Although you get your butt beat twice, you wish you did do it that way.
Right.
Is it? What's the feeling?
Fans,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say fans would rather not have 5 straight home games. I can tell you that. I mean, they sort of want to break in between some of these. I think that Hugh and the coaches are pretty happy with the way it sets up for now. But I don't know that anybody's really looking forward to doing this again. It's something that probably, as you're trying to make a step forward, if you take care of business, like you said, I mean, if you win those first 4 and you've got Oklahoma coming in and you're 4-0, then yes, it's been a good way to set things up. But yeah, stub your toe in one of these home games, and then you really put a lot of pressure on yourself there early. So I think it looks like it's set up well from a coaching, from the coaching standpoint and trying to make that step. But obviously, it's not what fans would prefer to then go a whole month without a home game.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Bill, why do you think Auburn plays Alabama so well down there? There was a big difference in talent last year, and really Auburn should have won the game. Even when Brian Harsin was. Is it the home field advantage? Is it that Auburn plays really loose in that game because they're not expected to win a lot of times, and Alabama's a little bit tight? Is there anything you can put your finger on as to why that game's so tight down there?
I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know exactly. I think just what you said. I do think that the the atmosphere. But Auburn does seem to play Alabama. They seem to be less tight when they're playing them, and just a fight. I mean, they just instead of going out there tight, you're right. They seem to be looser for some reason when they play Alabama than when they play Georgia or even some of the other, some other teams here. Although it seems like the bigger the challenge when they play it at home, they generally seem to play pretty darn well. I mean, Georgia was talking about it. I mean, Carson Beck was talking about it at the SEC Media Days, and you look at 2 years ago, Jaden Daniels came in and he played so poorly he had to get benched. I don't know what it is, but Auburn has really seemed to, especially against the top quarterbacks, that the atmosphere and somehow Auburn's able to seem to knock outstanding quarterbacks off their game here. That has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, that.
I don't know. We talk about the quarterback needs to be good at Auburn a little bit, and I think you have once, but we have new listeners every time you're on. Talk a little bit about the quarterback room at Auburn. Excuse me. When you go into the quarterback room, what do you go into?
You go into a room of young, inexperienced guys that right now we don't really know who the number 2 quarterback is. Going into spring, it looked like it was Holden Geriner even though Hank Brown had a good bowl game and he really looked good early on in spring practice. Looked like he was moving up to that number 2 spot. But I felt like by the end of the spring, Holden had sort of moved back into the number 2. Walker White is a true freshman who they really like, and boy, he can really spin it. But he just, you could tell he was a newcomer and was swimming a little bit. I mean, he tried to force things at times. So the summer, I think, has been very important for them. I right now couldn't guarantee you who the number 2 guy is going to be heading into the season. And I think that's going to be a very important thing. You need to know who that number 2 guy is in case your starting quarterback either gets hurt or doesn't perform well. And right now, I'd probably give Holden Geriner the edge, but that's the reason why this next season is going to be really important for Auburn as far as adding a quarterback. They don't have a quarterback commit right now, and even if they do get a very highly touted high school quarterback, if Peyton Thorne's the quarterback through the whole season, then I think they're going to have to go out and bring in a transfer just because they wouldn't have any proven quarterback, and there aren't many teams that can expect to contend with somebody who's pretty much a brand new starter.
Well, I think the surrounding people they feel like are better, and I think
no doubt.
If you looked at Auburn for strength wise, you would because I like the defensive coaches there. I think they're really good. I think Auburn's defense is going to be maybe better, good, better, whatever you want, whatever adjective you want to use. But I think that's going to be a big deal for Auburn.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. There's much more talent around Peyton Thorne. He's got a new left tackle who's got SEC experience, and of course a bunch of new receivers, 3 transfers and 4 freshmen that are a lot are expected out of. So last year a guy that was probably Auburn's best passing threat last year was Rivaldo Fairweather, the tight end. He made some all-conference teams last year and didn't get a whiff at SEC Media Days. And he's a guy that I think look out for him to really have a big year now that he has some guys that can stretch the field. So yeah, there's no question that they have more talent around Peyton Thorne. Now it's on him to show what he can do.
Bill, I enjoy watching the Olympics. Suni Lee, man, wow, what a comeback. I didn't realize her whole story with the kidney issue, gaining 40 pounds, leaving Auburn. What was her popularity when she was down there at Auburn? Of course, it's about to grow big time now after winning the team gold medal. We'll see if she can win the individual again. But how popular was Suni Lee down on the Plains?
Oh, it was tremendously popular, and she even talked about it. It was almost too much for her. She was like a rock star, and it was really tough for her to go anywhere without her classmates and things like that knowing who she was and wanting to talk to her. She really wanted to have a normal college life, but it's hard to do. I mean, you come in as the Olympic gold medalist, and not only that, everybody saw her on Dancing with the Stars. I mean, she was a great person to be around, but you could see that it was sort of wearing on her, and that the kidney problems just made it so tough for her. She's really gone through an awful lot, and yeah, we don't talk a lot of gymnastics, but I mean, we had to mention that, and everybody obviously is really pulling for her.
Yeah, she's amazing. I think the story of her and Simone Biles, what they've overcome, and watching them now, it's pretty awesome to watch all that. So anyway, tell everybody before you go, when does Auburn start practice? Alabama starting today, or is Auburn starting today?
Auburn starts Thursday morning. We've got Hugh Freeze. We've got Hugh Freeze with a press conference at 9, and then we've got a little viewing window Thursday and Friday, so they get started Thursday morning.
All right, tell everybody where they can find you, Bill.
Yes, The Drive every day on ESPN 106.7. You can check us online at ESPNAU.com, or you can go to RadioAlabama.net. We'd love to hear from everybody.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, guys. Have a great week.
All right, there's Bill Cameron. All right, let's tell them about Bryant Bank before we get to break.
Well, Bryant Bank is a traditional banking experience. If you certainly decide to go to Bryant Bank, and you should, you're going into a nice bank with a smart banker, and the people that surround the banker are willing to help you every way they possibly can. 4 locations in Tuscaloosa, where a lot of our listeners are, but also we have a lot of listeners in Birmingham. We have some outstanding places here as well with Bryant Bank. So Birmingham and Tuscaloosa have a lot of them. Columbiana has one, several of them throughout the state, and I hope that you'll go by and tell them you heard on Inside the Locker Room. They'll take darn good care of your money as far as the graft and the people trying to come in and take your money in a roundabout way. If you just have a business account there, you can be rest assured that it will be taken care of. So I hope that you go by Bryant Bank. I try to emphasize to you that I feel like, having dealt with them myself and having been with them for some time and tried to do what I could with the money that I had, I've been very comfortable with it, and I think that you will be also. So give Bryant Bank a call, go by and visit with them, and tell them that you heard on Inside the Locker Room.
All right, phone lines will be open the rest of the show. 205-342-9904. We've been busy. Right from Tom Hart to Justin to Bill, but now we can take your phone calls. We'd love to have your calls. What do you expect?
Is backed with a 90-day guarantee.
All dogs are unique. Your dog results can and will vary. Message and data rates may apply.
This report is sponsored by Compassion International.
Follow the Crimson Tide on their journey to another national championship. Touchdown, Alabama! On your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker. All right, football practice will be starting over there in about 15 minutes. This time of year, probably the first week or so. Of course, I know they're not in full pads. I know there's an acclimation period. They used to go 2-a-days. I think they did away with those. So I know the players probably back in the day will tell you how easy these guys got it in camp now compared to what they went through. It's supposed to be really, really hot out there today. So going in the morning is probably obviously a good thing for there. But, everybody's going to get an opportunity. If your quarterbacks will all be throwing, the receivers will all be running routes, catching balls. Everybody will be going through the same drills for the first probably a week or so. And then you start to kind of break it down and you put the first string together. But here, I think everybody kind of feels like they have a chance. And then as they get close to the season, then they'll develop who's on the scout team. And that's one of the things that I think the coaches are worried about, getting rid of the walk-ons. Those guys kind of knew they would be on the scout team. So that'll be okay for this year because you got the walk-ons out there. But it's a process to get ready, right, for that first game. And today's just the first day. So everybody will kind of get a chance to kind of run around and show what they can do.
Yeah, and the practice is going to be a little bit later this morning, starting at 9 o'clock, I think you said, rather than 6. So it'll be a little bit of different practice, and they got to be darn sure that as they go through practice that your nights or a way to get you up and get you ready for the next day's practice, and that's a little bit different for kids. They say is whatever that the first week is a little bit stumbling around a little bit with the 6 o'clock with the early practice, getting up early, but after that it becomes pretty good. So we'll see how it goes. The heat's something else.
Yeah, heat in the afternoons is just it's brutal. But so they'll get there. I think they kind of know what Coach probably got his system in the spring as far as warming up and all those particular things. One of the things that'll be different this year is, and I got to get on the email from the football SID. For some reason, I'm not on that, so I don't know exactly what all their plans are. But they've already laid out, all right, this day Coach DeBoer is going to speak. This day we'll have some offensive players and some offensive coaches and some defensive players and defensive coaches. So we'll have a lot more material as far as that goes this year because there'll be more people speaking. It's not going to be the one voice where it was just Nick Saban. So we'll get to hear from these assistant coaches and their philosophies and what they see. And I don't think Coach is going to put a muzzle on these guys. We've learned that when we had Coach Shepard on. They pretty much allowed to say whatever they want to say. So that should give us more content, don't you think, throughout the football season?
Yeah, it's liable to be, Barry, when they have the night show where Coach Saban was on. Sometimes it may not be the head coach anymore. It may be the offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator besides Kalen DeBoer speaking as they go through it, because the thing's going to be different, and he may give them an opportunity to do that. Let those callers come to somebody else rather than him.
All right, we got a guy text me a question for you. He said if Pat Dye had NIL back in the day, then would he have out-recruited Ray Perkins?
Oh, I think Ray Perkins and Pat Dye recruited about even with each other. I have never seen a guy work as hard as Ray Perkins. And I know that Pat worked hard on the other side. They had the same philosophy of going against each other hard. If Pat Dye had more money than Ray Perkins, yeah, he would out-recruit him. If Ray Perkins had more money than Pat Dye, he probably would have out-recruited him. I think the money factor would have been big there because neither one of them with their egos wanted the other guy to get ahead. And the two pilots that I knew that were flying Ray Perkins around just couldn't fly anymore because it was they were only allowed so much time per week to fly because of health and so forth, that they had to end up getting a third pilot. He worked him to death, and I don't know what Pat did particularly, but I know Pat real well because he was at Alabama for 8 years. But I think either one of them that had the most money probably would have somewhat gone ahead of the other one. I would call, and I could be wrong on this, and the guy that sent you the text or call may disagree. I call them right now about even in their recruiting.
Yeah. All right. We'll take this last break. We got a call coming in. We'll get to that as well. Also have another message somebody sent me. If you have time, I'll ask you that question as well. You listen to Tide 100.9, 1230 AM WTBC. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We've got an 8-minute drive on 2059 from Foster's to McFarland. And if you're traveling westbound, also 8 minutes from Cottondale to the I-359 interchange. On 69, Middle Area Road to McFarland, that's about 7 minutes. And further south on Lurling Wallace, another 5-minute drive down to the 15th Street exit, but no major accidents along the way. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Wednesday edition of The Game, we're going to recap practice because we will be there 9 a.m. on the campus of the University of Alabama. Kalen DeBoer talks following practice. We'll cut some of that up. We'll make a great conversation starting at 2 p.m. We'll feature Aaron Torres, Fox Sports national analyst, and a lot more of your phone calls right here on The Game on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in
perfect piece for your engagement, anniversary, or birthday.
Come experience the difference of shopping local. Visit Hudson Pool Fine Jewelers, downtown Tuscaloosa, or at hudsonpool.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Good morning. Heat advisory is in effect until 9 p.m. tonight. Heat index values reaching 108 today. Going to be hot and humid, partly sunny skies, highs near 95. Stay hydrated. Take frequent breaks if you're going to be outdoors. Tonight, expect partly cloudy skies with a low near 75. A slight chance of an isolated shower or storm early Thursday morning. Otherwise, tomorrow will be mostly sunny with highs near 95.
I'm meteorologist Bill Murray on Tide 100.9.
Mr. SEC Tournament Wimp Sanderson gives you his excellent analysis every weekday on Inside the Locker Room, right here on Tide 100.9.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. I get up to the Yellowwood Hotline, get Tom back in. Good morning, Tom.
Hey, Barry. Hey, Coach. You know, I was listening to your conversation with Philip, and Philip's starting to lean in this direction. I believe if I heard him correctly, that Auburn will put up a good game against Georgia, maybe even upset them in Athens this year. Is that correct?
He was trying to lean that way. We kind of shot that down. We could try to shoot that down for him, Tom.
Yeah, well, it could, but when that was conversation going on, I was thinking about Coach Jack Crow. Worked for Coach Dye for a long time at Auburn, and I really enjoy listening to his overall perspective of football, and I really like his take on Auburn football. And he said something that stuck with me for a long time. Is he said at Auburn, say what you will about Auburn, but they don't have to drill very deep to hit water, and that stuck with me. And I told I was having a conversation with Mike Casagrande that writes for AL.com. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And he said, what do you think about Auburn? I said, let me tell you about Auburn. When they roll into November to play Alabama, they always got something for Alabama. They don't back off. They're not intimidated. They're not scared of. They hold their end up every time they play. I said, occasionally we'll one-side them, but not very often. And I was thinking about all that when Philip was talking about it, and I agree with Coach Crow. Do y'all that Auburn? They don't have to. They don't stay down very long.
Well, I think the games at Auburn, I know Malzahn was like that. They play loose. They like, hey, we got nothing to lose, and I think Alabama plays tight because they're supposed to win. Now here, different. I think Alabama wipes the floor with them most of the time, but down there, I think they're loose. They play well. They're clear-headed. Alabama plays tight in that particular game, and I think that's why. And I think that happened last year. They were loose. Auburn should have won the football game. Now Auburn's talent last year was not very good, Tom.
It never is equal to ours. I mean, we recruit all these 5-stars, 4-stars, and everything else. I tell everybody all the time. I said, you know what? To dominate Auburn, we need 7 stars. We don't. 5-stars and 4-stars won't get it. Not against Auburn.
Yeah. Both of you can look at it. You can look at Tuberville's record in Tuscaloosa. And Alabama was down during those years, has some controversy. But look at that record, and you're going to be surprised with the record that Tuberville had. I don't think it's because of Tuberville. I think it's because Alabama had their particular problems. So
that's exactly right. Yeah. And you know what? In spite of all the problems Alabama had, Auburn still didn't achieve what they should have.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. But anyway, hey, I want to tell y'all this. Some really good friends of mine that are Auburn fans, they toured the new athletic facility last week.
And?
They said it was unfreaking believable. And they could not believe how much they're older. And they couldn't believe how much money had been spent on that place. And I think it's better part of $100 million was spent on that facility. And I said, hey, don't worry about it. They got it.
Yeah.
And
But I
said,
go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
No, I'm sorry. But Jack Crow was supposed to be on, and he was getting on a plane when I called him the other day. I had him on for Tuesday. And
Where was he going?
Oh, he was going to Wyoming.
Wow.
Really?
Something, he's on some kind of trip, some kind of something. And he said, I'll be on.
I bet he was going to Jackson Hole.
I don't know where he's going to Wyoming. So
there we go.
I bet
he'll be on next week.
I'll tell you this much right here. I wish I was going to my Wyoming. It's cool out there, and the trout fishing is just about it prime.
You like to trout fish?
I do. My niece used to live in Jackson Hole, and I went out there a couple of times, and she would take me fishing. I mean, it is unbelievable good.
Nice. Thank you, Tom.
See you. Take care.
All right, that's it for today's show. We'll get out of here. We had make a little adjustment this morning, but we made it on the fly and got through. So we appreciate Tom Hart, who joined us. We talked with Justin out at Tuscaloosa Toyota, and then finished up with Bill Cameron. A lot of talk about Auburn, Alabama. I guess Auburn recruiting a little bit better is kind of juicing up that rivalry a little bit. We'll see what happens on the field. But the games at Auburn are very tight. I know the games here usually aren't very close, except for a couple of times here recently. All right, that's it for today's show. The Gary Harris Show is next, so keep it locked in. Appreciate you, Chase, taking great care of us this morning. Listen to Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC. It's the home of Alabama sports. Have a great day, everybody.